estate a little bit. We won't go into this too far, maybe 10, 15 minutes, but I just kind of want to get your perspective of like why real estate, what things look like for Dakota Bailey prior to real estate, what the journey has felt like, even working with Sharper, and then like where we're at today. And then another question I'll probably ask you here just to kind of frame your mind and start thinking is like, on this journey, obviously you're doing better today than you were when we started in the studio 2 years ago. But like, there's been some pretty high highs and there's been some pretty low lows. Yep. And just, I think I want to have you highlight both.
Okay.
Yesterday, day before, Jacob went on that run, and he keeps, everybody's obviously talking about. We were even talking about like how he finished this half Ironman in 6 hours. But there was a moment that he almost quit.
Really?
Yeah, and it was on the run. He said I was just about out of energy. And what had happened is he had taken his packs and he had thrown them off his back because they were slowing him down. And he got out in the middle of this run and realized he was running out of fuel, physical fuel. And when he ran out of fuel, Derek, who had already ran Ironman, said he's going to hit a wall if he doesn't have this fuel. So Derek ran 2 miles out to him to bring him a couple of packs.
Wow. And
then ran the 2 miles back to the start line. And Jacob talks about in his video, as he's like about to quit, he's like, literally, I decided I'm going to walk. And I hadn't started slowing down yet. I look up and this guy's running at me. And it's like, I found you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Oh, Derek. He's like, bro, you're going to need these energy packs. And he's like, bro, I need one so bad right now.
That's crazy.
And he's like, if I hadn't gotten it right then, I probably would have started walking.
Yep.
And so like that on our journey as entrepreneurs, that happens, right? We get to a point where it's like, we're just about done. And then somebody shows up and it's kind of either carries you or gives you the tool or encourages you, and you just keep going a little longer.
Yep.
And so I think that's just a little bit of what I want to hear from you today. But let's talk a little bit about, Dakota. Like, who is Dakota? What's your purpose?
Yeah. So man, I'm a kid who grew up in foster care, was a very defiant kid who all the teachers really said, wasn't going to do much, was going to end up in jail, always was just going to end up in a bad path, basically, is what I was always told from a young age. So that's who I was just from a young age, just knowing that I had a bigger purpose and a bigger reason, but everybody around me couldn't see it yet because all they could see was just defiance. And so I knew that God had something different for me from a young age, honestly. Like I wasn't defiant just to defy them, because what they didn't know, I had long hair and piercings. I don't know if you ever seen me when I was young, but from the outside looking in, a lot of people thought I was on drugs, I was drinking, I was partying, I was having sex. Wasn't doing anything like that. But I was very defiant against authority because what I saw from them was, I guess, like, I'm trying to think of the right word, hypocrisy, I would say. I saw them say one thing and I saw them do another, and then they also told me what I was going to do with my life. So that's who I was from a young age. As I grew up, it turned into more of a hardworking, kind of proving people wrong. And that worked really well because all I had to do was do the opposite of what everybody said I was going to be. Okay, you're going to go to jail. Okay, I'm going to be a good person. You're going to be on drugs. Okay, I'm going to stay off of that. And so I was defiant towards what I thought was best for my life. So
I love that. So you use it as fuel.
100%. Use it as fuel and like move me towards what I really wanted to do and what my purpose was. And so fast forward, turned that motivation into just learning and growing. And so first I got into sales. So my first job, or one of my first jobs, was in car sales. Started just learning about that. From there, read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, then got into real estate, and things just started taking off from there. But I've always been learning how to grow, develop. And then now I'm starting to shift from that whole proving people wrong into real finding that true purpose that God has for me, regardless of what other people think, because it's actually shifted now into a different part, which is almost equally as difficult, somewhat actually more difficult, where people now have high expectations for me, where they already think I'm going to win. They think everything I'm going to do turns to gold. And so when they see me fail, it's almost more embarrassing now because they didn't see all the failures that I had before, because people already thought, man, you're already going to fail. And so that almost felt easier. Now it's like everybody thinks anything Dakota does, he's going to win at. And so when they see me fail, it's almost more difficult. So I'm learning to like rebuild myself even now and to lean into that purpose and lean into being okay with failure, because I'm going to fail, because I'm going to stretch. So that's the new phase that I'm kind of in right now.
It's kind of like an identity crisis, right? Like for the longest time, your identity was you're going to fail and I got to prove everybody wrong.
Yep.
Now it's I'm going to win
Yep.
and I got to protect from failing.
Exactly.
You know what? I just wrote a new book, and in the book, it's called A Mind to Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And on chapter 6, it's called The Loser Voice.
Mm.
And I think guys like us, because I have a very similar background story, I think guys like us, all those words of what everybody told us that we weren't going to amount to anything, it becomes that loser voice in our brain.
Yep.
It's like you're going to fail, you're not going to succeed. Somebody may have said it one time, but we've played that record 100 times in our head
Yep.
to keep driving us to success. And it's funny because I found over the years of hitting success, the loser voice never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying you're going to fail, it starts going, don't lose it.
Yep.
You're going to lose it all.
Yep.
You're going to prove them all right, you know?
Yep.
And that loser voice just changes, and we got to find ways to shut that voice up to keep going.
There's no doubt.
And I think the pressure is actually bigger from based on what I'm hearing you say. The pressure is bigger now than it was when you were a kid. Because as a kid, they expected it. Now
Yep.
they expect you to win.
Yep. And now I have something to lose.
Yeah, you do have something to lose.
Yeah, I mean, a lot more to lose, and so I've done well in some areas. Yeah, the pressure's way bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely my struggle too. And I've lost. I've gotten on the other side of it, won and then lost, filed bankruptcy. And in my mind, I'm proving them right. But the truth is, it's not true.
Yep.
None of that's true. You're just going to get better with every fail point, just stronger. It's kind of like you said, you tore your Achilles, right?
Yep.
And we know as soon as you get this fixed, you're going to be stronger than you ever been in that leg.
Yep.
And so like that's the thing I think people need to understand about your story and failure is like it's going to happen.
Yep.
It's just got to realize it's just about making you stronger, not making you weaker.
100%. Yeah, that's what I've realized through all of this is everything is more just self-awareness. Yeah. Every single thing that I've been through is helping me to become more self-aware, and then I can also help other people whenever they're struggling through this. Yeah. Because if I never been through half of this stuff, then it's way more difficult to have empathy or to coach other people who've never been through failures, who don't have that whole thing. And like, you know, a lot of times I see people with skill sets and then they only use their skill set. They don't have anything. And I thought about this actually on Steve Trains. He asked me some deep questions like, what do you feel like is your biggest strength? And I thought about that. I'm like, dang, you know what I really feel like it is just resilience. Like, I feel like that was the skill set that God gave me was just straight resilience. He's like, dude, no matter what, I will bounce back. It might be longer than what other people think, but I will 100% bounce back.
Yeah, you got to believe in yourself. So real estate is the journey and path you decided to take.
Yep.
You reached out to Sharper about, 2 years ago?
Yeah, man, it feels like it might have been longer, honestly, but it was probably 2 years ago, which is crazy.
And how did you hear about Sharper?
That was through Ryan Pineda. Yeah, so I knew that Pineda was coaching with you guys, and I saw you on stages, and every time I freaking saw you talk, I'm just taking notes like crazy. I'm like, that's what we need.
And so that journey, talk about like who Dakota Bailey and your business was prior to Sharper, and then, let's start there. Tell me a little about where you feel like you were, what your biggest struggles were.
Man, so I remember that was back. It felt like we were at a time where things were honestly just easy. I mean, we're coming off 22, 23. Real estate, honestly, like everybody was winning. You could sell to hedge funds. You can freaking wholesale. You can throw a property on the market, gets bid up. Everything could be trash, and honestly, you're still going to make a lot of money. And so when we're coming off of that, things started to get more difficult. And that was when I'm like, dude, we need some more structure in order to go to another level. So I'm a Maverick was my first test. And so I'm more just like all over the place, no structure, more just like get it done and get it done right now. Doesn't matter, who's doing what. We're all just all over the place. Everybody's doing everybody's job. Nobody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. They don't know the expectations. If they're doing well, it's just like, let's just freaking go get it done. And so that's kind of where we were, where nobody really knew much of what to do. And what that ended up doing was putting a lot of pressure on me. And so everybody came to me for everything. So little backstory is I had a partner, which is a good friend of mine. He's been my best friend since I was I was 14 years old. And so we decided that we're going to start this business together. Well, as time went on, he started wanting to work less, and then I ended up working more. And so what I thought the solution to that is I was like, you know what I'll do is I will just hire everybody for everything that I do. And then if I hire everybody, I'll get to the owner's box where, I don't have to do anything anymore. He doesn't have to do anything more. Then I don't have to have a hard conversation with him. And then we can go and I do our own thing after that. that was not a good plan.
Nope.
And so what ended up happening was exactly what I was describing earlier. If people don't know what to do, who are they going to go to? They're going to go to the person who has the knowledge. And so everybody's kept coming to me. And so what I realized is that from joining your program is we actually put a name to each person who's responsible for each area, and my name was in all of them. And so that was a huge realization. And so just from that one meeting, that helped us to realize so much. There's so many more lessons that you brought us. I mean, I'm gonna name two more. Another one was just having the hard conversations. Like, we had the hard conversations right there with a partner. We had the hard conversations with Andrew, and doing deals outside of the company, and like really worrying about the team. Because for me, it's also difficult to find that level of like, okay, I don't want to be selfish, and also we have to do what's best for the team. And that's not selfish to do what's best for the team and for the company. That's actually what's necessary. And so finding that balance is difficult, but somebody from an outside can come in and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you guys need to do. And it's not selfish for you to maintain that. So that was helpful too. And then the last thing that I'll never forget, it was actually in this house. We were netting over $1 million at that point. And you said, that's a false million. And I was like, huh, what is that? What does that even mean? I'm like, we made $1 million. I thought this is freaking great. It's because I'm sitting in 5 seats, not paying myself. And so sure, the business looks profitable, but you don't actually have a business. You have 5 jobs that you're not getting paid to do.
Yep.
And that was just like the biggest mind blown for me, because I thought we're doing really good and I wasn't worried about what anybody else was getting. I was just like, we're making $1 million. We're doing really good. And then I'm just realizing that I'm just suffering and not getting paid for any of it. And so that was the biggest realization from all of it. But there's so many more lessons that we got, but those are like the big ahas. Yeah.
It's funny. I think I call it a false prophet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the Bible and reading in Revelations, and the false prophet will come, and he'll lead a lot of people astray. And it's very similar in business.
Yeah.
The false prophet of business leads us astray, thinking that everything's good, and it's not good. And when we go to sell, or we go to hire somebody else to sit in the seat, we realize the profits start to drop versus go the right way. And the one thing I admired about your team was the resilience, for sure. I think you said that earlier, being one of your biggest strengths. And I concur. I think that is one of your guys' biggest strengths. None of those tough conversations fell on anybody that was like ego-driven, or somebody that was doing wrong and knew they were doing wrong either. Mm-hmm. The nice thing about even those conversations was like people were learning. They were just learning. And what they didn't know, they didn't know. And like learning to get better as a group was what I felt like I took away from you guys. And so I don't feel like, and it's funny because all those people are still here, because they, people don't know what they don't know,
right?
And so I don't think anybody was doing anything really unethical or wrong. No. They just didn't know, including you, sitting in seats of you shouldn't be sitting in. We talked about Steve Trang, and I remember right after we went out and did his, he posted a video, and he's like, Gary, what's my biggest problem? And I was like, looked at his process ownership chart, and I'm like, see all those seats with green in them? He's like, yeah. I said, those are your biggest problems. He's like, well, what's in the green seats? I said, you. So because he was in so many. Actually, I don't remember a team that had more of the owner in every seat than Steve's team.
Wow.
Steve was in every single seat in his organization, even in the downline. He was in multiple seats.
Jeez.
So let's talk a little about your hardest struggle. This journey from where you were 2 years ago to where you are today. Obviously, you would concur that there's been success and you've grown. I think last quarter when we were out down in Florida, you guys are celebrating a lot of cool things and a lot of cool accomplishments and high profits and things like that.
Yep.
And then with every hill there comes a valley, and I think you've experienced a little bit of that since then as well.
Oh yeah.
So talk a little bit about like what do you think your number one biggest struggle has been on this journey that other people might be able to learn from?
Holy moly, man. The first one that comes to mind goes back to the other one. I mean, we've experienced some other, heavy losses this year. We sold off. We had like 49 flips going at the same time, right around that time in December. And we let all of them go and, took some heavy losses. I mean, we didn't make a profit until like last month for the entire year. And so that was hard. But honestly, for me, I'll be honest, like, the money stuff, like it doesn't feel that difficult for me. Like I don't attach a lot of emotion to money, and so I can make it, lose it, and I'm just not that worried about it. The hardest parts for me is having those hard conversations with like my business partner, with my best friend, when I'm trying to do what's best for like for the company. And that's like the reason of why I do what I do is because I care so much about the people and the relationships. And so when you have a tension between a partner that's been a best friend of mine, and then it's holding back the team from reaching their potential, and I can see that, and either choice is hard. Those are some of the hardest times I've ever had when I have to make a tough decision about what's best for a person, even though it's going to be hard in the short term, it's going to be way better in the long term. Because I also believe that conversation that I had with my business partner and the trajectory that he's on, he can't find out who he is if I'm the one who's pulling him along. He can't gain confidence if he's just relying on me. And so by me having the hard conversation, he now gets to grow as a person, go through it. It reminds me of the analogy of a caterpillar. And you know what happens if you try to get a caterpillar out and you don't let it struggle? It dies. And so at the end of the day, I feel like I was trying to rip him out and kind of save him and help him turn him into a butterfly when I can't help him turn into a butterfly. He's got to go through a struggle. And so now I watch him struggle. And that's been the hardest part for me, is like allowing people to go through struggle in order for them to get to the other side, and then finding that balance of being a leader while seeing other people struggle, knowing that you can take it away from them right now, but knowing that that's the worst thing you can do. That has been the hardest thing that I've learned as a leader, and I'm still learning and trying to figure out that balance between like not enabling but supporting, but then letting him go through a struggle. Like that's the hardest part.
For sure. So kind of a deep question here, and if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But I think for me, it's like listening to your story of like from you were a kid till now, and that being, you know, how many homes did you grow up in?
I don't even know, probably over 10.
Over 10 homes. Do you think that has a lot to do with the struggle bus of like helping people? Because you had so many years of people not believing in you, not feeling like you belong, not feeling like you were accepted, to now these people have become your friends and they're there for you. They've been there for your hard times, to like not reinvest back, not save them when you felt like there were moments you needed to be saved. Like you're trying to be that for yourself.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that's actually what I've been working through, is that exact thing. Because from a young age, a lot of people ask me like when I knew I was going to be successful and all this stuff, and I made a decision when I was like 6 years old to not allow any like weakness, because there's a lot of stuff that happened that led into foster care. One of them was my dad almost killed my mom. And so my dad's in jail and my mom is in the hospital. And, you know, I don't remember if it was somebody that said it to me or my own mental state, but it was more like, you got to be the man of the house now.
Yeah.
I had 2 sisters. And so at 6 years old, that was when I decided that I'm going to step up and I'm going to take care of people. And there's like, I'm going to make sure that people don't have to hurt or struggle anymore. So yeah, I decided from a very, very young age that I'm going to help people and I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to a therapist one time, this guy I was talking to, and he said a lot of times in our mind's eye, we still see inside of ourselves the 6-year-old version of ourselves. And it's interesting you pick that age, 6 years old, because I actually know somebody who keeps a 6-year-old picture of themselves on their phone, and all the decisions and everything they do every single day is about protecting that 6-year-old. And I think that's like how we live our lives sometimes, is we live our lives with the mindset of like we're still trying to protect that 6-year-old boy. And like when nobody else came to save that 6-year-old boy, you can still save that 6-year-old boy in every day, in the way you act and the way you treat other people. And I think that's such a powerful thing. I mean, just, you know, kind of resonate a little bit on that and think about that. Like to have a 6-year-old picture of yourself on your phone to remind yourself every single day, like where you came from, first of all, but more importantly, how many other 6-year-olds out there could use your help.
Yep.
So, man, I appreciate your time today. We're going to jump into your quarterly and make sure we get you guys structured in the right way as we go into the next 90 days. But I appreciate you taking time to come up here and talk to us. Thanks,
Sure.
man.
Let's go.